Claudia gazed at her reflection in the vanity mirror, carefully applying foundation to a purplish mark on her cheek, a remnant of a night spent in quiet tears. With fingers honed by years of dedication, she seamlessly blended the makeup, mirroring the delicate art of concealing her emotional scars. The morning routine at the Montero residence unfolded with the grace of a finely tuned instrument. At 6 o'clock, Ricardo stepped out of the shower, insisting on his coffee without sugar and his shirt of the day impeccably ironed. The rich scent of the imported premium coffee he was adamant about purchasing enveloped the kitchen, as Claudia crafted a breakfast he would hardly sample. "The quarterly report needs to be finalized today," Ricardo declared, his gaze fixed on his tablet, disregarding the plate of fresh fruits that Claudia had set before him. "Please don't hold dinner for me." "I have an important meeting," Claudia nodded, understanding that this significant meeting was the unspoken signal they had created for their clandestine rendezvous. 15 years of marriage had transformed into a journey of deciphering unspoken messages and quiet moments. Across town, Roberto Vasconcellos began his day in the penthouse of the Vasconcellos Enterprises corporate building. At 55 years old, he led one of the most significant business empires in Latin America, fueled by the same fervor passed down from his father. His office, a sleek and uncluttered space with expansive windows from floor to ceiling, provided a breathtaking vista of the city that appeared to bow before him. "Mr. Vasconcellos, the investment committee is ready for you in the meeting room," his assistant conveyed through the intercom. Roberto straightened his Italian silk tie, gazing at his reflection in the window. In contrast to many of his staff, including Ricardo Montero, he felt no need to assert his authority. His presence alone demanded respect. Claudia's existence unfolded within the meticulously defined boundaries. The social club where she dedicated her time to charity events, the cafe where she gathered with friends who skillfully sidestepped the whispers about Ricardo's betrayals, and her residence, a lavish cage nestled in the prestigious district of Las Lomas. With an air of confidence, Ricardo strolled through the hallways of Vasconcellos Enterprises, exuding a sense of ownership over the space. His role as Director of Business Development provided him with the social standing he desired, yet it always felt insufficient. His peers characterized him as exceptionally intelligent yet merciless, traits that he seamlessly integrated into his personal life. The contrast between their realms grew increasingly apparent during the infrequent moments they occupied the same environment. At business dinners, Claudia flawlessly embodied the role of a supportive spouse, while Ricardo highlighted his career successes, subtly brushing his assistant's leg beneath the table. Fate, it seems, started to intertwine its strands in a surprising manner. The yearly gala of Vasconcellos Enterprises was drawing near, bringing with it a chance to reshape the meticulously crafted illusion of their union. Ricardo had started to lay the groundwork, casually mentioning the significance of keeping up appearances during the event, unaware that Claudia was meticulously noting every word he spoke. What Ricardo failed to realize was that his wife, the woman he deemed predictable and submissive, had been quietly gathering subtle indications of her awakening for years. Every act of rudeness served as a moment of introspection, every clumsily woven falsehood became a valuable lesson, and every lipstick stain on their shirt stood as a testament to the inevitability of change. Claudia had started to take subtle steps to reclaim her life, though she did so quietly. The transformation started quietly, akin to the initial beam of light seeping through a drawn curtain. Claudia started to closely observe Ricardo's phone calls, meticulously recording his absences, crafting a tapestry of information that would soon uncover the scheme her husband had devised for the business gala. As Claudia organized the study, the sound of Ricardo's phone ringing broke the silence from the desk. The glowing display unveiled a message that would alter the trajectory of his existence. "All preparations are complete for the gala. Elena is destined to steal the spotlight tonight. Your spouse will remain completely unaware." His hands trembled as he placed the phone back exactly where he had discovered it. The validation of his doubts arrived not as a crushing shock, but rather as the final fragment of a complex picture he had been assembling over the years. That same afternoon, Ricardo returned home early, displaying an uncommon cheerfulness. Claudia observed him from the kitchen as he animatedly discussed the gala preparations on the phone, his gestures full of excitement. "It will be flawless," she heard him declare. "Claudia will attend for the duration required. It's all about how things look, isn't it? In that case, we can unite free from concerns. Elena should be showcased in a manner that reflects her true worth." Claudia couldn't help but notice the irony of the situation. As her husband orchestrated her public humiliation, an unusual sense of calm washed over her. Years of quiet sorrow and restless nights had shaped within her a strength that even she was unaware of. As they sat down for dinner, Ricardo struggled to hide his delight. "The gala is set to be a pivotal moment in my journey," he declared, refilling his glass with wine. "However, I require everything to be flawless. Vasconcelos is set to attend." "Certainly," Claudia responded, maintaining a carefully even tone. "There is a specific detail that you ought to be aware of." "Just act like you always do," he remarked, oblivious to the resolute spark in his wife's gaze. "We'll show up together, make our entrance, and then you can head out early." "I understand these gatherings can be tedious for you," Claudia acknowledged, concealing a grin behind her wine glass. Ricardo's failure to recognize his own potential would ultimately serve as his most significant asset. As he pictured her at home, accepting her solitude, she was quietly starting to craft the intricate patterns of her own retribution. As the night unfolded, Ricardo drifted into a deep slumber, while Claudia lay wide awake, her thoughts meticulously unraveling every aspect of the impending events. The gala would serve not as a backdrop for his embarrassment, but as the stage upon which his genuine power would be unveiled. "Do you want to put on a show, Ricardo?" she murmured to herself, gazing out at the shimmering city lights. "You shall receive it, yet it will not be what you anticipate." On a Tuesday morning, Ricardo personally delivered the sobretorado. He placed it on the breakfast table, exuding a deliberate nonchalance, as if attempting to minimize the significance of a carefully planned act. "The invitation to the gala," he declared, straightening his tie before the hall mirror. "It's just 3 weeks away. Ensure you find something suitable to wear." Claudia grasped the envelope, sensing the luxurious texture of the paper against her fingertips. The emblem of Vasconcelos Enterprises gleamed in golden relief, representing the power and influence her husband so desired. "Do you have any specific recommendations?" he inquired, his voice laced with genuine interest. "Something subtle," Ricardo replied, glancing at his watch. "We prefer to keep a low profile. This night holds significant weight for my career." "Of course," Claudia replied, observing her husband exit the front door without a word of farewell. Once she was by herself, she opened the envelope with careful, measured slowness. The invitation was a masterpiece in its own right. Gold letters on matte black paper heralded the annual gala of Vasconcelos Enterprises, the pinnacle social event of the corporate calendar. Claudia made her way to her dressing room, greeted by the sight of her reflection in the full-length mirror. At 42 years old, he exuded a timeless grace that the passage of time had only enhanced. Ricardo had pushed her into the shadows for such an extended period that he had completely overlooked her existence. He picked up his phone and called a number he seldom dialed. "Carolina, I am Claudia. I require your assistance for a unique endeavor." Carolina, her former college classmate and now a celebrated stylist, replied with great enthusiasm. "Have you finally chosen to heed my words?" Later, when Carolina spotted Claudia at the gala, she embraced her with a blend of pride and shared understanding. "I knew you would make an impact." His words echoed in Claudia's mind as she strode purposefully into the room. "A change is necessary," Claudia affirmed. "I must ensure everything is flawless for the Vasconcelos Enterprises gala." "Trust me, I've got it covered," Carolina replied. "I will reveal the woman you have always been, the one you've kept concealed." For the next few hours, Claudia carefully crafted each detail with precision. The invitation signified something beyond just a gathering. It was the crucial element that would unlock the pathway to his freedom. That evening, as Ricardo came home later than expected, he discovered Claudia immersed in a collection of fashion magazines. "Have you made up your mind about what to wear?" he inquired with a lack of enthusiasm while loosening his tie. "Not yet," she said, concealing a grin. "I have a few thoughts." "Keep in mind what I mentioned," he cautioned, with a careful and fitting approach. "There's no need to worry," Claudia reassured. "I assure you, it will be a night to remember." Ricardo nodded absent-mindedly, missing the underlying implication in his wife's statement. To him, Claudia remained the same compliant and unchanging woman she had always been. He failed to recognize that beneath the surface calm, a tempest was gathering, poised to obliterate all he held dear. The invitation lay on Claudia's nightstand, a persistent reminder of the imminent occasion. With each glance in her direction, he sensed her resolve intensifying. The gala would serve as her platform, and she, after many years, would finally take center stage in her own narrative. The charity event at Club Las Magnolias unfolded like any typical Thursday morning, until the unexpected arrival of Roberto Vasconcellos changed everything. Claudia, the mastermind behind the annual auction for the Children's Hospital, found herself momentarily frozen as the president of Vasconcellos Enterprises entered the main hall. "Mrs. Montero," Roberto said, offering her a friendly smile as he reached out his hand. "I've heard quite a bit about your contributions at the foundation," Claudia replied, taken aback by the ease with which Roberto spoke to her. "Mr. Vasconcellos, your presence here has taken us by surprise." "Important endeavors always warrant recognition," he responded, surveying the tastefully adorned space. "Furthermore, I was informed that the organizer possesses a unique talent for these occasions." In contrast to the arrogance that defined Ricardo, Roberto radiated a serene assurance. His gray eyes sparkled with authentic intrigue as Claudia elaborated on the nuances of the event. "Would you care to explore the art exhibition?" she suggested, gesturing towards the nearby room. "The creators have contributed remarkable pieces for the auction." As they strolled through the improvised gallery, Claudia observed that Roberto was genuinely engaged with her words, a rare occurrence she hadn't felt in years. The dialogue seamlessly transitioned into more intimate subjects. "Ricardo often brings you up in the office," remarked Roberto, pausing in front of an abstract painting. "Is that so?" Claudia replied, keeping her poise intact. "At home, he rarely discusses his job." Roberto gazed at her with a focus that rendered her feelings exposed. "At times, those who are nearest to us may understand us the least." The remark lingered in the air, heavy with significance. Claudia experienced a chill coursing through her, acutely aware that Roberto could penetrate the layers of her meticulously crafted exterior. "The annual gala is approaching," he remarked nonchalantly. "I suppose we'll encounter her there." "Absolutely," Claudia affirmed, a thought beginning to take shape in her mind. "I must admit, these moments can prove to be quite demanding." Roberto raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "In what way is it challenging?" "Let's just say I don't always feel completely at ease," she responded, choosing her words with precision. "I must respectfully disagree," Roberto stated, his tone gentle yet resolute. "I just observed her navigate this event with remarkable poise. The element, Mrs. Montero, is the place where one chooses to bring it into existence." The arrival of other guests disrupted the conversation, yet an undeniable shift had occurred. Claudia experienced a surge of vitality flowing through her, an opportunity she had never contemplated until now. As they parted ways, Roberto lingered on her hand for just a heartbeat longer than required. "It has truly been a delight, Mrs. Montero. I hope our paths cross again," she said. "Call me Claudia," she added, surprising herself. "Claudia," he echoed, relishing the sound of her name. "See you soon." As she observed him retreating, Claudia sensed that their encounter was anything but accidental. Destiny, with its enigmatic accuracy, had just provided him with the crucial element for his scheme. The image in the mirror revealed a transformed woman. Carolina had woven her spell over the last few weeks. Claudia's hair, once neatly confined in a conservative bun, now cascaded in gentle waves that beautifully framed her face. A fresh cut and a hint of color had revitalized her features. "It's amazing how a transformation can boost one's confidence," Carolina remarked, fine-tuning the final strand of hair. Though true change originates from within, Ricardo hardly perceived the subtle shifts taking place. Her increasingly tardy arrivals and increasingly simplistic excuses kept his attention diverted. Claudia observed him navigate the house with an air of superiority, as if he were invincible. "Elena will be stunning at the gala," she overheard him boast on the phone one morning, his voice unapologetically loud. "Just wait until you see everyone's reaction when they lay eyes on her. It will be unforgettable," Claudia smiled to herself. "It certainly will be," she murmured, as she admired the dress she had chosen for the occasion. It was not the modest outfit that Ricardo had suggested, but a stunning emerald design that Carolina had picked out just for her. Within the confines of the office, Ricardo paraded his alleged power. His co-workers, weary of his demeanor, started to whisper about his increasingly unpredictable actions. The revelation of his plans to bring his partner to the gala had surfaced, fostering an air of unease and anticipation. "Have you noticed Monteros' recent behavior?" one secretary remarked to another over lunch. "Pretend he's untouchable." "Just wait until Vasconcello hears about this," his partner replied. "No one is beyond reach in this company." As Claudia delved deeper, her determination grew with every revelation. The secretive phone calls, the emails left open on the shared computer, the bills for lavish gifts I had never seen. Every piece of evidence marked a progression in their journey toward liberation. One afternoon, as he was arranging yet another charity event, an unexpected message arrived. "Could we have coffee?" It was from Roberto Ginto. The message was straightforward, yet its significance was deep. Roberto Vasconcellos was not one to engage lightly with the spouses of his employees. Claudia replied with a graceful yes, sensing that the elements of her strategy were aligning seamlessly. At home, an unspoken tension was steadily escalating. Ricardo, lost in his own ambitions, remained oblivious to how his wife was drifting further from his grasp. Shared dinners had transformed into moments of deliberate silence, punctuated only by the sound of cutlery and the sporadic beep of messages on Ricardo's phone. "The gala is just 2 days away," he declared at one of the dinners. "I hope you've selected something fitting." "No need to fret," Claudia responded, concealing a smile behind her wine glass. "Everything is perfectly planned." And he was, though not in the manner Ricardo envisioned. As he envisioned his moment of glory, Claudia meticulously crafted a web of alliances and strategies that would turn the gala into an event far removed from his expectations. As Claudia stepped into the financial district cafeteria at 4 o'clock, she was greeted by a lively scene filled with energy and movement. Roberto Vasconcellos sat poised at a secluded table in the rear, his aura drawing focus even in the casual setting. Claudia rose to welcome her, grasping her hand with the same warmth that had marked their initial encounter. "Thank you for accepting my invitation." "The pleasure is mine," she replied, settling into her chair, "though I must admit, your message caught me off guard." Roberto smiled, a gesture that eased the sternness etched on his face. "Isn't it true that surprise plays a crucial role in our existence?" The waitress approached swiftly, and they both placed their orders for coffee. Once they found themselves alone again, Roberto wasted no time and got straight to the point. "I've observed a certain tension in the office recently," he started, gauging her response. "Particularly with the approaching gala." Claudia kept her poise, even as her heart raced. "Corporate galas always elevate anticipation," he replied thoughtfully, "and it appears that certain individuals have especially lofty hopes this year," Roberto continued, his expression sharpening. "Consider your spouse, for instance." The time had come. Claudia inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts before she began to speak. "Mr. Vasconcellos, Roberto, please," Roberto, she corrected, there is something I need to tell you about the gala. For the next few minutes, Claudia articulated her situation with a composure that astonished even her. He shared with him the details of Ricardo's schemes, the degradation he aimed to impose, the long years filled with contempt and betrayal. Roberto absorbed every word, his gray eyes deepening in intensity with each unfolding truth. As Claudia concluded, a profound stillness enveloped the space between them. "What are your intentions regarding this situation?" he finally inquired. "I have a proposal," Claudia said, leaning in a bit. "However, I will require your assistance." Roberto's face broke into a revealing smile. "Proceed." "Ricardo anticipates that I will play the role of the obedient wife who departs the gathering prematurely," Claudia articulated. "What he doesn't anticipate is my arrival, linked arm in arm with the president of the company." Roberto raised an eyebrow, truly impressed. "Sometimes, it's a daring choice," Claudia responded. "The most effective way to protect oneself is through a strong offensive. Are you ready to face the outcomes?" Roberto inquired, his tone becoming tender with sincere worry. Claudia maintained her focus on him. "For years, I have endured the repercussions of others' fearfulness. It's time to embrace the outcomes of my own courage." Roberto reached out, his hand brushing over hers for a fleeting moment. "It will be a privilege to join you at the gala, Claudia." The scheme was underway. As they completed their coffee, the details were honed with meticulous accuracy. Roberto grasped his part in this intricate dance of poetic justice with precision. As they parted ways, an unspoken understanding lingered between them, a bond that transcended mere strategy. A connection was forged through mutual respect and a common recognition that certain struggles are deserving of effort. The lounge of the Imperial Hotel shimmered beneath the glow of the crystal chandeliers. The city's business elite gathered in intimate clusters, generating an atmosphere of refined dialogue and hushed chuckles. Ricardo arrived early, with Elena by his side, dressed in a flawless black suit that beautifully contrasted with the form-fitting red dress of his partner. "Tonight will be perfect," he murmured to Elena, as he exchanged polite nods with his colleagues, each gesture carefully crafted. Claudia is likely at home, reflecting on her day with a glass of wine in hand. The smug grin on his face stiffened as the grand doors to the hall creaked open, ushering in a whisper that swelled into a silence thick with expectation. Roberto Vasconcelos strode in with his usual commanding presence, yet it was the woman accompanying him who captured everyone's gaze. Claudia, linked with the president of Vasconcelos Enterprises, moved forward with a grace that appeared to transcend the years of humiliation she had faced. The emerald dress embraced her silhouette perfectly, while her hair cascaded in gentle waves, accentuating a face that radiated unwavering confidence. All attention was drawn to her, relegating Ricardo and Elena to the background of the narrative. Claudia, the name slipped from Ricardo's mouth like a soft murmur, as his companion, anxious, sought to grasp the reason behind the sudden focus of the crowd. Claudia confronted him head-on for the first time in years, her eyes cutting through him like a blade. "Oh, Ricardo," she said, her smile laced with mischief, "you seem taken aback. I believed you were anticipating a night to remember." The whole room hung on every word, pretending to engage in discussions as the murmurs circulated. "Mr. Vasconcelos," a colleague interjected, "might you introduce us to your companion?" Roberto offered a serene smile. "Allow me to present Claudia Montero, a remarkable individual who has established herself as a powerful force within and beyond the organization." Elena, feeling invisible, grasped Ricardo's arm tightly, yet he remained unresponsive. His meticulously crafted universe was starting to disintegrate right before his gaze. Claudia advanced, her champagne flute held high. "Let's raise a glass," he declared, his voice ringing with clarity, "to second chances, for some of us seize them, while others let them slip away." The applause erupted swiftly, and Ricardo, looking pale, could only observe as Claudia and Roberto made their way to the dance floor, leaving behind a silence thick with questions and judgments. The couple glided through the room, pausing now and then to exchange pleasantries with the guests. Roberto treated Claudia with a respect that sharply contrasted with the way Ricardo had interacted with her over the years. Mrs. Montero, the executives acknowledged her, with a few recalling for the first time that Ricardo had a wife. Eyes shifted back and forth between her and Elena, who had abruptly shed her victorious demeanor. "Ricardo," Roberto said, finally making his way to where his employee stood frozen. "Your wife is truly remarkable company. It would be great to see her at company events more frequently." Claudia observed her husband's expression shift from disbelief to comprehension, and ultimately to fear. Elena's presence beside him, once a badge of honor, had transformed into a damning reminder of his own foolishness. "Mr. Vasconcelos," Ricardo managed to articulate, "there are many things you did not expect tonight, dear," Claudia interjected, her tone gentle yet resolute. "Life is brimming with unexpected twists, wouldn't you agree?" The adjacent guests feigned disinterest, yet it was clear that each utterance was being noted and would resurface in later discussions. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. "Roberto," Claudia said, glancing at her companion, "would you grant me the honor of the first dance?" "It would be my pleasure," he said, leading her to the dance floor that was starting to take shape. As they departed, Claudia caught the whispers of the executives, the subtle laughter of the wives in attendance, and the astonished quiet of Ricardo. Elena had subtly slipped away into the throng, abandoning him to his own embarrassment. The orchestra commenced a waltz, and Roberto guided Claudia with the elegance of one destined to take the lead. Amidst the dazzling lights of the hall, as they twirled to the rhythm, Claudia experienced a sense of liberation she hadn't felt in years. "Was it worth it?" Roberto murmured. Claudia beamed, a heartfelt grin that illuminated her features, moment by moment. The night progressed with the intricacy of a finely played chess match. Each step taken by Claudia and Roberto in the room sparked a ripple of looks, murmurs, and anxious movements. Ricardo, left behind by Elena, struggled to keep his cool as his colleagues observed him with a blend of sympathy and barely suppressed laughter. "It's astonishing that we never realized how captivating Ms. Montero truly is," remarked one senior director to his wife, just loud enough for Ricardo to catch. "It's hard to believe you consistently kept her at a distance from these occasions, Ricardo." The groups underwent a subtle reorganization. Those who once pursued Ricardo's focus now found themselves drawn to the effortless exchange between Claudia and Roberto. The connection between them was unmistakable, yet they upheld a professional boundary that rendered any claims of misconduct unfeasible. "I must say, your wife has some truly remarkable ideas for enhancing the social responsibility program," Roberto remarked to Ricardo as they met by the bar. "You ought to give it another listen." Ricardo slammed back his whiskey in one swift motion, his grip on the glass tightening to a pale hue. "Claudia has consistently held back her thoughts." "Reserved?" Claudia interjected, materializing beside him. "How intriguing. I have always held numerous opinions, Ricardo. It seems you ceased to pay attention to them quite some time ago." Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by the official photographer of the event, who asked for a photo of the president with the Montero couple. Everyone was acutely aware of the irony in the situation. Ricardo, who had intended to showcase his partner, now stood awkwardly beside his wife and his superior. "Could I have just one more photo, please?" Roberto requested. However, solely with Mrs. Montero. Claudia took her place beside Roberto, her emerald dress beautifully contrasting with his dark suit. The image would seize a moment destined to be shared across corporate social media for weeks on end. Among the guests, speculation bubbled up like effervescent champagne. "Did you know she organizes charity events?" one woman remarked to another. It seems that Roberto Vasconcelos found her work at the Children's Hospital quite impressive. There was always something peculiar about the way Ricardo interacted with her, her companion replied. As the evening unfolded, the woman's presence seemed to unravel Ricardo's standing in the company, piece by piece, with every tick of the clock. His subordinates, once eager to share in his humor and triumphs, now turned away from his eyes. Elena's unexpected disappearance was a topic of hushed whispers. "Are you enjoying yourself?" Roberto inquired of Claudia as they savored a tranquil moment on the balcony. "It's peculiar," she responded, gazing at the city lights. "It seems as though I've been in a deep slumber for ages, and now I'm beginning to awaken. Occasionally, we require a spark to remind us of our true selves," Roberto pondered. Meanwhile, Ricardo observed the unfolding drama with a blend of frustration and bewilderment. What had once been a brilliant scheme had now spiraled into a haunting reality, and the most painful truth was that he could only point the finger at himself. As the orchestra resumed its melody, Roberto reached out to Claudia. "Shall we share one final dance?" "Just for tonight," she answered, her smile holding a hint of mystery, but perhaps not the final one ever. The morning following the gala emerged with stark precision. Ricardo reached the office early, attempting to stay one step ahead of the looming consequences, yet the fallout had already begun. The corridors of Vasconcelos Enterprises, typically alive with morning energy, were eerily quiet as he walked through. His secretary Maria, who had long shielded him from the consequences of his actions, greeted him with a detached professionalism that hinted at the impending transformations. "Mr. Montero, there are numerous urgent messages waiting for you, and the Human Resources Department is requesting an immediate meeting." Upon entering his office, Ricardo discovered his email inundated with notifications. Images from the gala were already making the rounds on the corporate intranet, capturing Claudia and Roberto at different moments throughout the evening. The photo of them dancing had garnered particular attention, paired with subtly suggestive remarks about genuine class and effortless elegance. "Did you catch the photos?" He overheard two analysts murmuring close to the coffee room. "Who could have predicted that Montero's wife was like that? I always assumed she was just a regular housewife." "And Elena resigned this morning," the other replied. "She sent her resignation via email." He failed to appear and collect his belongings. Ricardo attempted to focus on his tasks, yet the furtive looks and whispers trailed him like an unwelcome specter. His phone stayed mute. Clients who once inundated him with messages had shifted their preference to direct communication with other executives. As mid-morning approached, a message from Roberto arrived. "In my office, now." The ascent to the upper level felt interminable. Throughout the week, the whispers and sidelong looks had grown more pronounced. Every overlooked email and each redirected call added to the mounting pressure that reached its peak in the meeting with Roberto. The assistant kept him waiting for precisely 15 minutes before permitting him to make a small yet significant adjustment to the protocol that did not escape attention. Ricardo acknowledged Roberto without rising from his desk. "Take a seat, Mr. Vasconcelos. Last night, I have no interest in your explanations." Roberto interrupted, his voice steady yet assertive. "What matters to me are the results. And recently, your outcomes have been dubious." A chill of anxiety trickled down Ricardo's spine. "I can clarify. Text: the Henderson project is lagging behind. Client Lopez is threatening to end his contract. And now this." Roberto pressed on, gesturing toward a folder resting on his desk. "Your conduct is starting to impact the reputation of the company. My dear sir, I can assure you that." "You have two choices," Roberto interjected once more. "You may choose to step down quietly, accompanied by a simple letter of recommendation. You may choose to remain, but please be aware that you will be reassigned to the provincial branch. It's entirely up to you." The communication was unmistakable. The remnants of his realm lay in shambles, with no hope for restoration. "I require some time to ponder over it," Ricardo whispered. "Do you have until tomorrow?" Roberto replied, shifting his focus back to the papers on his desk, signaling an unmistakable end to the conversation. As Ricardo made his way back to his office, every step resonated with the weight of his errors. The transparent barriers that had once bestowed upon him a sense of strength now laid him bare to the scrutiny of all around him. His corporate empire, constructed on a foundation of instability and hubris, was disintegrating right before him. Upon his desk, a white envelope awaited discovery. A message awaits you from your social club. His membership was revoked due to inappropriate behavior. The realm he had tirelessly strived to master was casting him out, bit by bit. Upon his return home that evening, Ricardo discovered Claudia in the study, meticulously arranging documents. His presence, once nearly undetectable in the house, now appeared to saturate every corner with a fresh sense of command. "How could you possibly think that?" he exclaimed, forcefully closing the door behind him. "Are you aware of the consequences of your actions?" Claudia lifted her gaze from the documents, her serenity standing in stark contrast to Ricardo's rage. "What I have accomplished," intriguing choice of phrasing. "You have embarrassed me before the whole company," he thundered, advancing toward the desk. "Do you really believe I'm unaware of your intentions with Vasconcelos? Degrade you?" Claudia rose gradually, maintaining his gaze. "What was your intention in introducing your lover at the gala to embarrass me?" Ricardo stepped back, taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. How was I aware?" she finished. "Ricardo, your deceptions have been as reckless as your arrogance in wielding power. I have meticulously recorded every message, every call, and every deception." He retrieved a folder from the drawer and smoothly glided it across the desk. "Here are all the details, the hotel invoices, the presents for Elena, the bank transactions, and even the correspondence where you orchestrated my public embarrassment." "You're exaggerating," he attempted to justify, though the vigor in his voice had waned. "Overstating?" Claudia offered a smile devoid of any amusement. "I possess the accounts of the other women as well. It's astonishing how many opened up when they felt truly heard." Ricardo sank into a chair, his defiant exterior falling apart. "What is it that you desire?" "What I desire, I already possess," Claudia replied. "My sense of self was restored. At this point, I am seeking a divorce. Separation." Ricardo straightened his posture, his eyes igniting with fury and a sense of urgency. "You must be joking. Who would ever abandon everything like this? Do you truly believe it was your kindness that bestowed all of this upon me?" Claudia maintained her focus on him. "Control has slipped from your grasp, Ricardo. Just as serious as your proposal to move to the province," she responded, relishing the astonishment on his face. "Indeed, the word travels fast. What sets me apart is the variety of choices I possess. You, however, have been watching my every move," he charged her. "Absolutely not, Ricardo. I've been observing, a quality you never extended towards me." The ensuing silence was thick, burdened by a history of bitterness and unvoiced realities. "The divorce papers are set to arrive tomorrow," Claudia continued. "My attorney has them ready. Please ensure you sign them promptly to avoid any complications, or the folder before you may find its way to the board of directors." Ricardo gazed at the folder with a mix of apprehension and intensity, as though it held the potential for chaos at any moment. "Would you really not take the chance?" "No." Claudia made her way to the door. "Are you willing to take the chance to discover? After all, I am no longer the compliant figure you once perceived." He paused before departing. "Oh, and I require you to leave the house before the weekend. It's right there in my name, if that slipped your mind." The door whispered shut behind her, leaving Ricardo to grapple with the burden of his choices. In the quiet of the study, the clock's ticking underscored the decline of his once mighty empire. The announcement of the Monteros' upcoming divorce circulated among social circles with the swiftness of flames consuming parched grass. Ricardo, having chosen to move to the province instead of stepping down, started to pack his office while being watched with interest by his former subordinates. "Sir. Vasconcelos requested the reports for the last quarter prior to his departure," Maria conveyed, her polished demeanor subtly revealing her satisfaction. Human Resources requires your signature on the transfer documents. Within the confines of their home, Claudia took charge as Ricardo collected his possessions. The mansion, once his gilded cage for years, now seemed to brim with endless potential. "Those designer shirts of yours," she remarked, gesturing towards the dressing room. "The ones you were always eager to flaunt during meetings. Are you interested in having them all?" Ricardo was carelessly shoving clothes into suitcases, a stark departure from his once fastidious nature. "I could do without your sarcasm, Claudia." "It's not sarcasm," she said, poised gracefully on the edge of the bed. "It's a matter of basic respect, a concept that seems to elude you." Ricardo's phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Elena, who had secured a job in a different city and was seeking answers. The companions who once showered him with attention were now silent, leaving his calls unanswered. The opportunities that his role had afforded him were shutting down gradually. "Your transfer will take effect on Monday," Claudia remarked, as she went over some documents. A quaint town, characterized by its humid atmosphere, lacking in upscale clubs or gourmet dining options. A transformation, invigorating. "You're relishing this moment, aren't you?" he snarled, forcefully closing a suitcase with a decisive thud. "A fitting retribution." "Indeed," she confessed openly, without a hint of embarrassment. "You might find it unexpected, but my aim isn't revenge, it's simply to restore equilibrium." The transformations within the company were equally striking. Roberto executed a restructuring that successfully dismantled Ricardo's previous web of influence. Tasks were redistributed, and teams were restructured. At a board meeting, Roberto shared that Ms. Montero proposed some intriguing changes to our social responsibility program. "Your involvement in charity events will be incredibly beneficial." In the meantime, Claudia thrived. His contributions at the Children's Hospital Foundation caught the eye of various other organizations. Invitations to boards of directors and committees started to come in, this time directed solely to her. "It's amusing," he remarked to Carolina during a spa session, "for years I persuaded myself that I required Ricardo to navigate through society. I understand now that he relied on me to uphold his image of respectability." As Ricardo completed his packing, he paused at the front door, taking a final glance at all that had slipped away from him. "Did you orchestrate all of this from the start?" he inquired. Claudia observed him from the stairs, tranquil. "No, Ricardo, it was all part of your plan. With each act of deceit, each instance of belittlement, and every time you chose to disregard my worth, I reached a point where I could no longer tolerate it." The door shut behind him, echoing with a definitive thud. In the stillness that ensued, Claudia inhaled deeply, relishing the essence of her newfound liberation. A month after Ricardo left, Claudia found herself on the terrace of her home, savoring her morning coffee. The mansion, previously filled with unspoken conflicts, had evolved into a haven of tranquility and potential. "The lawyer informed me over the phone that the divorce will be finalized in 2 weeks. Ricardo has agreed to all the conditions." It seems that the intimidation of revealing his secrets was rather compelling. The news failed to ignite in Claudia the burst of happiness she had once envisioned. Instead, he experienced a serene contentment, akin to the moment when a reader finally closes a book after an extensive journey through its pages. At Vasconcellos Enterprises, he had become a regular presence. Roberto had extended an invitation for her to head the new corporate social responsibility department, a role that aligned seamlessly with her background in charitable endeavors. Roberto had expressed during a meeting that his viewpoint was essential. "You perceive possibilities where others merely recognize duties." Their formal gatherings started to spill over into settings outside the workplace. Lunch meetings evolved into profound discussions about existence, transformation, and new beginnings. "Is it not a bit premature?" One evening, after a wonderfully enjoyable dinner with Roberto, Claudia found herself deep in thought. Carolina, her trusted companion, paid close attention to her in their upcoming session. "Time is a matter of perspective," he replied. Your union concluded well before Ricardo's departure. Updates about Ricardo trickled in intermittently from the province. His relocation was not merely a shift in location, it symbolized a decline in the social hierarchy that he had held in high regard. Elena had vanished from his existence, chasing new prospects in a different city. Are you aware of the most ironic aspect? Claudia shared her thoughts with Roberto as they strolled through the park. He constantly worried that YOLO would bring shame to society. Ultimately, it was his own hubris that led to his undoing. Roberto extended his hand with a serene motion, continuing to delve into the depths of their bond. At times, it takes losing everything to truly appreciate what holds significance, he remarked, even though they were both aware that their relationship was still in its infancy, gradually nurturing trust. Claudia's transformation captured the attention of those around her. The individuals who previously viewed her merely as Ricardo's trophy wife now approached her for her own merits. His involvement with the Children's Hospital Foundation had grown, and various charities were reaching out for his insights. One afternoon, as she sifted through old photo albums, Claudia stumbled upon a picture from her early years of marriage. The young woman who had been smiling shyly beside Ricardo now felt like a complete stranger. That woman is gone, she whispered to herself, shutting the album with a soft thud. A figure had risen, embodying strength, wisdom, and a sense of wholeness that surpassed the former presence. The turmoil that Ricardo aimed to wield against her transformed into the spark for her renewal. Are you prepared for the council meeting? Roberto inquired, stepping into the doorway of his office. Claudia beamed as she gathered her papers. Prepared for whatever comes, she replied, and for the first time in ages, she truly felt that way. Roberto's office on the top floor of Vasconcellos Enterprises provided a breathtaking vista of the city, an expanse that appeared to go on forever. Claudia gazed at the twinkling evening lights, anticipation building as she awaited the beginning of the meeting that promised to alter the trajectory of her career. The council has unanimously approved your proposal, Roberto declared, stepping into the office with a beaming smile. The new Community Development Center is set to become a reality. It transcended a mere corporate endeavor. It embodied the result of countless hours of dedication, a seamless blend of the corporate realm and the altruistic endeavors that had forever ignited his enthusiasm. There's another matter, Roberto said, taking a seat across from her. The council is requesting that you take on the role of vice president for social development and sustainability. Claudia felt the breath escape her lungs. Roberto, It's not meant for us, he stepped closer. It is due to your dedication, your insight, your talent for turning concepts into tangible results. Just then, his phone buzzed with a notification. The communication originated from his attorney. The divorce has been finalized. Documents that have been signed. Liberated at last. The serendipity of the moment was impossible to overlook. Claudia gazed at Roberto, who stood there with quiet patience, allowing her the time she needed to absorb the weight of both pieces of news. Do you know what Ricardo shared with me the last time we chatted? She remarked, rising to gaze out the window. This was merely a figment of my imagination, a fleeting illusion that I would soon come to understand I couldn't endure without him. Roberto drew near, keeping a courteous distance. What are your thoughts? I believe he never grasped the distinction between merely existing and truly embracing life, Claudia replied. I endured alongside him for years. At long last, I am truly alive. The choice regarding the vice presidency lingered, woven together with the hint of a deeper connection between them. The connection that started as a calculated partnership had transformed into something richer, more genuine. What can you tell me about the position? Claudia finally asked, turning to face him. I agree, but on one condition. What is it? Let's be clear that whatever unfolds between us is entirely separate from my role in the company. Roberto smiled, recognizing the significance of this distinction. I could have anticipated nothing less from you. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the office. Claudia reflected on the extensive journey she had undertaken, considering the woman she once was and the person she had evolved into. How about we have dinner to celebrate? Roberto suggested. Are we talking about a boss and employee dynamic, or more like Roberto and Claudia? She inquired, a mischievous grin dancing on her face. As individuals who have discovered that life presents opportunities for renewal to those brave enough to seize them. Claudia gave a slight nod, reaching for her bag. The future unfolded before her, not as a vacant assurance, but as a journey she had deliberately crafted for herself. Just so you know, he remarked before departing, you'll need to secure a new office. This boasts the finest view in the city, and now that I'm vice president. Roberto's laughter trailed behind her as she entered the elevator, a sound that represented not just a fresh start in her career, but also the potential for a deep, meaningful connection, grounded in respect and true admiration. 6 months had elapsed since that pivotal night. Claudia's office at Vasconcellos Enterprises had evolved into the heart of a change that transcended the business realm. The Community Development Center, her inaugural major project as vice president, had transformed into a vibrant hub serving hundreds of families. The once dull gray walls now showcased photographs of the social programs she had brought to life, training workshops for women, daycare centers for working mothers, and financial education initiatives. The business magazine is interested in doing a feature on you, his assistant remarked, placing a stack of documents on his desk. They say you are the new face of corporate social responsibility. Claudia smiled, recalling how Ricardo once dismissed her charitable efforts. Now, that very work was transforming the approach of major corporations to their societal responsibilities. The updates regarding Ricardo dwindled over time. His move to the province had morphed into a lasting departure. Whispers circulated that he had sought to reclaim his previous role at various firms, yet his past reputation lingered like a shadow. Have you ever wished you had made a different choice? Carolina inquired during lunch, have you brought a conclusion to the absurdity? Claudia replied, tossing her salad. I only wish I had done it sooner. Her connection with Roberto had developed with the ease of something meant to be. They required no extravagant displays or loud proclamations. Their bond revealed itself in the subtle nuances. A shared glance in the midst of discussions, a quiet coffee at sunrise, a hand clasped during leisurely strolls on the weekends. I never imagined that happiness could be so peaceful, she confessed to Roberto one night while they were having dinner on the terrace of her house. That's the difference between love and spectacle, he replied, intertwining his fingers with hers. One needs an audience, the other just needs to be genuine. The mansion that had once served as their gilded prison had evolved into a sanctuary of inspiration and intent. Spaces that previously echoed with uncomfortable quiet now thrummed with the excitement of fresh ideas, joyful exchanges, and the hope of a future anchored in strong principles. One afternoon, as she sorted through her collection of books, Claudia stumbled upon the golden envelope from that memorable gala. She paused to reflect, recalling how an experience intended to belittle her had sparked her liberation. Sometimes, he pondered, our darkest hours are merely the opening act for our brightest days. The phone rang, breaking the silence of his musings. The call came from the Children's Hospital, seeking to broaden the program she had initiated years ago. Absolutely, he responded without a moment's pause. Let's schedule a meeting to discuss the details. As she noted the appointment in her diary, Claudia smiled at her reflection in the window. The woman looking back was no longer anyone's shadow. He stood as a testament to the idea that real strength is found not in overpowering others, but in the capacity to turn suffering into meaning and challenges into chances. As the sun dipped below the horizon, it cast a warm glow of pink and gold across the sky. A fresh dawn was on the horizon, bringing with it endless opportunities to craft your narrative, this time guided by your own vision. We have arrived at the conclusion of this compelling tale of renewal and courage. If Claudia's journey resonated with you, from her silence to her remarkable transformation, or if you found yourself relating to her fight to reclaim her dignity, please give a like and share this narrative with someone who could use a spark of inspiration to embark on their own path to change. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more narratives that remind us that it's always possible to reshape our own fate. I am eager to hear about the historical moment that has influenced you the most and, importantly, from which country you are tuning in. Please share your thoughts in the comments, whether it's about Claudia's transformation, the poetic justice at the gala, or the lovely evolution of her relationship with Roberto. Your insights and experiences add depth to the community we are creating together.